Ladies and gentlemen, unzip your flight suits and prepare for takeoff, because today we're rocketing back to 1955 when cars didn't just drive, they posed. This isn't my uncle's rusted ranch wagon with cigarette burns in the headliner. No, we're talking about the 1955 Lincoln Indianapolis exclusive study by Boano. A concept. Car so spicy it needed APA Sport and a parental advisory label. 1. Look at its flaming orange curves and chrome afterburners, and you'll be wondering if it came with an ejector seat or just the ability to vaporize every Buick within sight. Smash that subscribe button for more insane vehicles that history almost forgot, because we dig these treasures up so you don't have to. Now, where do we even begin? With the Lincoln Indianapolis, built in Italy, designed by a guy who looked like Hepatied harder than a drummer on tour, and packed with enough American muscle to make the auto barn blush. This is what happens when you mix espresso with bourbon and stir with a chrome tail fin. The year was 1955. While Eisenhower was busy building highways and diners were perfecting the grilled cheese. Across the Atlantic in Torino, Felice Mario Boano and his son Gian Pao had launched their own design house. Carrozzeria Boano. These weren't your average shade tree mechanics. They were veterans of gear, the Italian coach-building legends who had already seduced Chrysler with their sleek show, Cars. When a friend named John Cucchio Fraud suggested, Boano build a concept on a Lincoln chassis for the upcoming Turin Auto Show. The Boanos saw opportunity not just for art, but possibly a contract. The base was a 1955 Lincoln Capri chassis, complete with a 123-in wheelbase and a burly V8 under the hood. But Boano wasn't interested in modesty. His exclusive study was part aircraft, part alien sculpture. The nose was needle-sharp with no traditional grille, just an air intake slit under the bumper like a smirking mouth. A massive glass canopy evoked racing planes of the 1930s. And the tail, my word, the tail looked like it could light up the Tarmacat LaGuardia. The whole thing was drenched in a nuclear orange paint job that whispered speed and shouted, "Look at me." When the Indianapolis debut debuted at the 37th Salonel Automobile in Turin, jaws hit the marble floor. Auto Age magazine plastered it on the November 1955 cover with the headline, "Is this the next Lincoln?" Ford thought it might be. In fact, Henry Ford secure-portedly purchased the car on the spot and had it shipped stateside. According to later accounts, Ford even offered Boano a 10-year styling contract, which Felice politely declined because instead he told Fiat and got the job running their new design center. That's like turning down a Hollywood role to start your own studio and still winning an Oscar. Back in America, the car's path got a little fuzzy. Rumor has it Henry Ford Sue gifted it to actor Errol Flynn, though there's no smoking pipe to prove it. The Indianapolis was shown in Boston, where it sustained interior damage, possibly from someone mistaking it for Aspace heater. Eventually, it landed in the hands of Felix Duclos, then Thomas Kerr, a Packard collector with a sharp eye and a soft spot for forgotten legends. Kerr kept the car for 3 decades, carefully preserving its history. Around 1999, he handed it to Jim Cox Sr. and Jr. in Pennsylvania for a full restoration. They didn't just slap on some Bondo and call it good. No, they spent 2 years bringing the spaceship back to life down to the last checkered seat and aircraft-inspired instrument panel. The overhead valve 341 cubic and V8, originally putting out around 125 horsepower, was freshened up and the non-working engages and power steering were finally made functional. Think of it as cosmetic surgery for a starlet who never actually aged. Let's dive into the delicious technicals. Under the hood, we find that 341 Cub and 5.6 L Ford Lincoln YB Block V8 fed by a single 4-barrel carburetor, pushing out somewhere north of 200 horsepower. Some say 225, others whisper 255, but it was definitely enough to get this 4300 LB Comet up to speeds in the 110 mph ballpark. That might not impress your cousin's Tesla, but in 1955, it was enough to pass. Everything but a gas station. And you'd be stopping at those often since the fuel economy hovered around 11 to 12 meh per gallon. Hey, beauty has its price. Power was routed through a turbo-drive 3-speed automatic transmission, typical of the Lincoln Capri. Suspension came courtesy of an independent coil spring setup in front and a live rear axle with semi-elliptic leaf springs in back. Nothing revolutionary, but perfectly capable of carrying this Italian-American fusion across the show circuit. The body was welded onto a standard Lincoln frame, but there was nothing standard about what sat on top. Those long pontoon fenders, the wraparound glass, the afterburner taillights, they weren't built for practicality. They were built to make you gasp. The exclusive study by Boano Torino Crypt wasn't just branding, it was a declaration that you were looking at rolling sculpture, not a sales pitch. All of this came together in a package measuring roughly 216 in long. That's 5.5 m, folks. 78 in wide, almost 2 meters, and just 51.5 in tall, about 1.3 meters. It sat low, wide, and ready to strike. Now under it made grown men weep and small dogs bark. While the Lincoln Indianapolis might have looked like it was ready for liftoff, the design itself wasn't just style for style's sake. Gianpaolo Boano, in his 20s when he sketched it, channeled both his love of airplanes and his youth-fueled exuberance into a body that flowed like jazz. Every surface was intentional, every detail dramatic. The lines wrapped and folded like a aerodynamic poetry. And unlike the usual American designs weighed down by chrome flourishes, Boano's curves breathed with fluidity. And if that didn't shout, "Hands off, this is art," then nothing would. Inside, things got even weirder in a good way. The two-seat interior was swathed in black and white leather with a stepped console separating the lucky occupants. A massive dashboard arc wrapped around the cabin, centered on a panel that flipped open to reveal a full suite of gauges and controls, and emblazed across the dash like a race decal. One word, Indianapolis. Because when you name your car after the most famous speedway in America, you don't whisper it, you scream it in block caps. Now, let's talk money. When it was new, a standard 1955 Lincoln Capri cost around $3,800, roughly $40,000 in today's money. But the Indianapolis, it was the Mona Lisa of concept cars. Admired, gawked at, never touched. That changed decades later. In 2006, it crossed the block at Pebble Beach for a thunderous $175,000, not bad for a car that once got mistaken for a UFO. In 2015, it sold again. This time at RM Sabes from the Andrews collection, fetching $210,000. Then in 2019, it changed hands once more for $115,000, no discounts, no clearance tag, just timeless design with a side of V8 Thunder. Beyond the numbers, though, this car represents something almost extinct in today's world. Ambition without compromise. It's not about lap times or horsepower bragging. It's about dreaming so hard the world has no choice but to stare. From the nuclear orange paint to the phantom exhaust ports, the Indianapolis screams imagination and does so without caring one bit what the neighbors think. So if you've got about $1 million lying around, a parking space big enough to host a school dance, and a taste for orange that goes beyond soda, then the Lincoln Indianapolis just might be your dream machine. But fair warning, once you park this thing, you're not sneaking anywhere. Even the birds will be doing flybys to check it out. Thank you for flying Boano Airlines with us today. Don't forget to subscribe for more wild, weird, and occasionally flaming vehicles from history. And remember, if your neighbor says they don't make them like they used to, just show them this orange missile and say, "No, they really, really don't."